everybody. It's Scott Bunce again, and today I'm going to interview Jeff Jahn, who's wears multiple hats. He is a Vistage speaker. He is a prolific writer, and he runs his own business. And I'm just going to go ahead and give a personal shout out. He has reviewed and edited the company I work for's website, tore it apart, and somehow I felt better. Jeff, welcome, and I'm glad to get another chance to speak to you.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Jeff, so I gave you a brief introduction, but why don't you take a few minutes, talk a little bit about yourself and some of your accomplishments, and yeah, just share a little bit more if you would.
Sure. I'm that weird, incurable entrepreneur. I started my first business at 14, setting up networks and building computers and that kind of thing. Built a couple State Farm call centers before I turned 15. It was pretty fun. They would call my parents' house because I didn't have a cell phone in 1999. And they would say, hey, it's Tim from State Farm. Is Jeff there? And my mom would say, sure, hold on. And then yell upstairs, Jeff, State Farm's on the phone. I go, awesome. My mom's my answering service. And then I go get the phone. I'd say, sure, I can set up that network for you. What time can you come pick me up? People used to drive me around town to set up their computers and do various things. And then sophomore year of college, I started Dynamics. And so we're now 18 years, coming close to 19 years in on building high-end websites and the custom software that supports it. So that's it in a nutshell.
Great. Tell me a little bit more about your Vistage speaking. And
yeah.
Who's your target audience? And if somebody attends one of your talks, what are they going to get out of it?
Yeah. So I call it digital greatness. And the idea is essentially helping to unlock the stories and the things that make you special to a prospective customer. There's so much noise about the latest tech and everything having to be there, and a lot of that's important, but so much is foundational, fundamental stuff that hasn't changed in hundreds of years in storytelling, and just pulling some of that out. And so part of my job is to help explain some of the things that people never think about, like just the basics of asking, date me, marry me, ask for someone to have a conversation with you. Probably 65% of sites that I look at during a Vistage session have no calls to action, have not asked anyone to do anything, have no easy way to move forward. But really my job is to be a friendly root canal and to sit in a room full of CEOs who couldn't care less about what I do and come into it probably slightly annoyed that I'm there because they feel like they have people that are handling this stuff for them. And the last thing they want to think about is the website, and then help realign their thoughts a little bit on the importance of it and where there may be opportunities to improve.
Absolutely. It was funny as you presented to our group. You went one by one, did some great due diligence work that pre-reviewed, made notes on each one of our websites, ripped us totally to shreds. You did it with a smile on your face. And I didn't see any one of my members that didn't go, oh my gosh, he's absolutely right. And why didn't we think of that? And so I'm also going to give you the designation that I rarely ever bring a speaker back to my group, but I'm bringing you back next year because you did such a fantastic job. There were a few members that were missing. And frankly, like myself, I'd like to know if I've made enough changes on my website that it's going to pass your test. And I have a feeling no matter what happens, it's not going to pass your test, but that's okay. It's all about getting better.
I do the same thing for sites that we've built. A lot of times I'll go into a Vistage session and there'll be someone that we created a site for, and I'm way harder on those, finding all the little things that I'm like, I think this should have been done better. We just changed it, that kind of stuff. So there will always be something to find, but it's nice to be able to come back a year later and say, hey, you were at like a 13 on some things, and now you're up to a much higher level.
Right. So, fill us in. What are some of the top issues that you see, and how might somebody go about correcting issues around their website?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, there's a lot that I see very regularly, and I see Vistage organizations are usually a bit better than the norm when I go and give a speech somewhere else and it's a big room of random CEOs. I always see a higher caliber overall on the Vistage side. But the biggest things that I tend to see are not calling out the things that make them special. There's an author named Seth Godin, and he's written a bunch of great marketing books. And the one that always stands out to me is a little book that he made called Free Prize Inside. And I read this one in college, and the idea was essentially when you were a kid, you didn't buy cereal based on the cereal in the cereal aisle. You bought it because of the toy. And so his idea was finding those free toys, the free prizes that, all other things being equal, will make someone interested in working with you. And the free prizes are different for each person, but there's some common themes. And so what I like to do is get down to the meat of like, what are the 6 or 7 things that are going to have the highest potential for someone to go, hey, all things being equal, I like these guys. I believe in their vision, their mission, whatever it is that they've got going on, or I feel really strongly about the warranty, the support system, whatever it is that sets you apart, and put those front and center in a way that someone can come on there and go, yeah, you know what? This resonates with me. And the fun thing about it is when you do that, you're also subtly off ramping the people who are probably not a good fit for you anyway. Because one of the mistakes I see a lot is people try to consider success just based on how many raw form fills or phone calls or whatever it is that they get. And success really should be about getting more of the right kind of business and never getting the conversations that are not a fit. It provides no value and negative value if 8 out of 10 phone calls are people that should really not have been in a conversation with you in the first place. And so by putting those kind of free prize things front and center, by addressing the things that make you great, and also by saying where you are and aren't a fit, it makes it way more likely that the right type of person is going to be excited.
Can you cite maybe a website where it was kind of a before and after scenario where they started out and they were struggling, and what did you do to work through some of their challenges and get them in a better state at the end of the tunnel?
Yeah. So actually, the one that came first to mind is a company that we're now redoing their parent site, but the company's advanced painting, and we did advanced drainage. And the conversation they had is that they felt like there was a business segment that was not served on actually resolving drainage issues permanently. Because if you've ever had a drainage issue, you know that it comes back over and over and over again. It's like it's never really properly solved. And so we created a website for them under the concept of visually showing the main problems and those problems being solved. So the text was there for SEO, but you were really seeing, oh yeah, that's the problem I have. And you click on it and it shows that problem getting resolved. And then it walks through the process of it. And then it walks through how to move forward with them and reinforces with some testimonials. The logical flow of it is exactly what that person's brain wants to know next subconsciously in order to make a decision to move forward. And so this site didn't even exist. This brand didn't exist. And it went on to outrank the parent company that's been around for 30 years because in organic, because it was such a compelling story mechanism.
Wow. So that's even beating the parent company. That says something right there.
Yeah, and especially for a site that didn't have nearly the legacy or history.
What are some of the challenges you think in the mindset of some of the people you're consulting with have that prevent them from really hitting it on all cylinders?
So the funniest one that I see more in Vistage than outside of Vistage is the brag on yourself, show off what you've done and what makes you special. It seems like a common thread that these organizations don't want to be the braggy shout from the rooftops guys. And so they end up going the reverse. And I'll come onto the site and I'm looking through it and I'm like, how long have you guys been around? Oh, well, 65 years, and we've worked with 4,000 homeowners, and we've done this and that. We've never had a negative review. And I'm like, all the things you just elevator pitched me in our conversation don't exist on your site at all. You look like a company that started 2 days ago with no credibility factors whatsoever. And the response is always like, yeah, but I don't want to be that guy that's just kind of, look how great I am. And I have the exact same struggle with it. So I completely relate to it. But you have to pick a few things and remove yourself from the equation and say, what would I want to know if I was potentially going to work with this company that sets them apart? I want to know about, this particular technology that only they have, that they spent 18 years perfecting, that they're super excited about. Whatever that is, bring it to the forefront, because not doing that is harming their ability to make a good decision. And no one sees that as bragging. It's just a natural part of what you expect in order to understand who's a good fit.
Right. Hey, Jeff, when you think about websites that are inspiring, um, and I can't even imagine how many websites you've looked at over the years, but what are some that come to mind, and why do they inspire you?
That's a really tough question to answer, because my brain looks to how to improve everything. Everything that I go to, I pull up a site and I'm like, why did they do this? Why isn't this way? Oh man, I bet if they changed this and that and did this, they'd make a huge impact. So the only thing that really comes to mind is more of a knowledge center, which is kind of a surprising but not surprising one, which is Twitter or X, just from the standpoint of the like kernels of things that are just on the horizon. I find it a great place to find the, like, what's that new AI thing that's being played with, or how is someone creatively applying something that I never would have thought of. And so being able to quickly digest in that format, it's probably the thing that comes to mind for me from a site perspective or an engine perspective. Otherwise, I mean, my job is really to find fault in everything, whether I want to or not. And so I can tell you what I would improve on every site that I ever come across more easily than I can tell you what I like.
Let's change topic and talk about website trends. What new trends are happening? And what do you think might be a waste of time? And what do you think might actually be driving new business?
Yeah, great thought. So, I mean, you can probably predict that a big part of what the past year has been ChatGPT and equivalent based, just barfing of content all over the place. And what we've seen is there's been, I think, four major updates just in the past several months from Google's standpoint in working to actively address the massive influx of content that's been created. Because it used to be you're going to sit there with several writers and you're going to just beat yourself to death creating a lot of core content, and now you can push a few buttons and have a lot of sort of generic text there to try to rank. And so what we're seeing is a lot of the lower value, more niche stuff is being devalued actively in Google. And we're continuing to see what we've seen for 10 plus years, which is Google is really hyper focused on sites and pages that are creating a compelling story and next step. So I'll give you an example. Let's say we both are plumbers and we're both in Atlanta, and we make two brand new websites. And mine, I hop in and I make a ton of content about Atlanta-based plumbing and plumbers and, you know, homes in Atlanta and blah, 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 blah. And you create a site experience and you say, look, I had 24 years working for 6 great companies doing this. There were a few common things that I saw that I always felt like could be done better. And finally, I had the opportunity, sat down with my wife and said, I'm going to create the business that I want to have as, you know, as the person that works for in my home. And so you create this nice story. You have a clear strategy for how to have a conversation, your targets and everything. The day that these 2 sites launch, I'm going to outrank you because Google has nothing to go on and it just sees a ton of copy, sees that it's, you know, highly relevant for a particular area, but we call it a shooting star. So they're going to see that that site, people come to it and they go, oh, this feels like a used car salesman thing. It's like, I call it a brick to the face of copy. You come onto a site and you got all of this content and it's like someone takes a brick and just throws it right at you of text. And so people come on and they go, oh, this isn't what I was looking for. And they bounce out of it. Very rapidly, as Google sees people coming to the site, they see them off ramping, they're going to start to devalue that site. And then you on the flip side will start off lower, start off with more of a slow roll. But as people come onto the site and they stay or they take a next action, they do things that are clear intent, Google's going to say, hey, this is the place that is providing a better customer experience. And you're going to rank higher than I will with my strategy of, you know, shotgun a bunch of copy. And so I think that's going to become even more dominant now because people have jumped onto the ship of I'm going to create 700 pages about all of this niche stuff because it's easy. And I think there's only a matter of time before the value of that diminishes pretty dramatically. And we're already seeing it.
So one of the things I'd like to talk about is the practical side of your advice. So
yeah.
I recall taking like 2 pages of notes as you tore apart the website of the company that I run. And I had to go back and work with my team and then put it in order of priority. So when you think of the advice that you're giving to people, and it, you know, whether you're giving 2 pages of advice or more or less, how should people go back, take that advice and rank it in priority? You know, for us, it was like, well, how much is it going to cost? How much time is it going to take to do? Where's the low hanging fruit? How do you in general prioritize advice that you give?
Great question. I think it's a triage approach, and you also have to pause and say, is this fixable, or do I need to rebuild the car? You know, there are times where you might spend more to try to solve some of the major problems than if you were to just build a new site or to take a deeper strategy. And then the other side is sometimes the people that got you to where you are not the people to take you to the next stage. And so I think some of the answer to that is nuanced in that, like, I'll find some things I see on a brand new site that, you know, this Vistage CEO, super excited, just launched this site a month ago. And I go, oh, I really hate to tell you this, but your code base is clearly 2014. You know, this is when that company stopped learning how to build, how to innovate. They felt a comfort level. And I can pinpoint all of the things just instinctively that make this an old site experience. And you can come back to them and they can make a few changes here or there, but you're probably going to have a hard time getting it to a modern standard. But let's assume that you've got a great team there and there's some room for improvement. I think that's the case that for your site is that you had a great foundation and you had an engaged team and there were some people that are some things that could be improved. And your team was just sitting there taking notes as well and super involved in the conversation. For that, I always look at what's the easiest low impact, low work, high impact type of thing to get done. And you start to create a little bit of momentum. So start knocking out a couple of things like, oh, there's no H1 tag on the homepage. There's no primary heading tag. Let's solve for that. This is an issue. Let's solve for that. Security obviously is my first thing that I look at, making sure that everything's up to date. And then the next side I look at is prioritizing site speed. If the site loads slowly, it's your silent killer of value in so many ways. You'll struggle to rank, you'll pay more in Google Ads and everything else. It just has so many negatives that trickle down that are maybe not super obvious to your average kind of layman person. So if I could prioritize anything, it would be site page speed and making sure that it loads fast, reliably, does its job. And then you get into some of the things that are, storytelling. Any site, you should be able to revise your copy very easily to make it more compelling. I see a lot of me focused things where you come onto the website and it's like, why we're great and, this and that. And it's like nothing about the customer whatsoever. Those are very easy things to jump in and make some adjustments to that add a lot of value.
That's all great feedback. So Jeff, if people want to learn more about you, find the stuff that you write about, want you to speak, how do they get a hold of you? And yeah, what's your contact information?
So Dynamics, DYNAMIX.site is our website, and my name is sort of funny. Jeff, Jeff is easy, but Jahn, it's pronounced Jan, and no one ever gets it right.
Including me, including me.
But at least on LinkedIn, just think the guy with maybe two first names, because I get called Jeff Jahn all the time. Just find me on there and you'll see the Inc. and Forbes and all the other stuff on there, and happy to chat anytime. I love getting in and finding the half dozen things that would make a big difference that take 10 seconds to fix. So always happy to have those conversations.
Great. Well, Jeff, thank you again for spending time with us today. I personally am looking forward to seeing you at one of my upcoming meetings here in the next year. And I can't recommend enough what you do.
Thank you so much.
All right. All the best.
Bye.